Our speaker now is Kimihide Ando, who is the CEO for Pakistan and SVP at Mitsubishi Corporation in Japan. Thank you. If you would manage to...
Assalamu alaikum. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. My name is Ando, country head of Mitsubishi Corporation, Japanese. And I belong to, definitely not to Generation Z or X. How do I call it? Being Japanese, it's rude to ask the age of ladies. So my questions, please ignore the ladies, please ignore. But all those gentlemen who were born 60s or before, please raise a hand. 60s or before, 50s, 40s, 60s, or not so many. Okay, but at least I try to represent those of you who we call Generation Ice Age or Neanderthal. Maybe at least to the eye of Generation Z, maybe we look like a Neanderthal. And because I was born in 1959, I look a little bit younger than I am. I will be 58 next month. And I have witnessed so much. 59, I was born. So those, are there any millennials here? Okay. You don't know, but how happy we were when black and white TV was delivered to my house. Black and white TV. And one day, my wife was calling all the relatives and friends that, look, now I have a telephone in my house. That was like 60s. And I was only 10 years old, 1969. One fine early morning, September 20th, 3 o'clock in the morning, my father woke me up. You have to wake up. Come and sit in front of the TV. That was actually the day when Apollo 11 landed the moon. At that time was 25th, 5 o'clock in the morning. So from the 3 o'clock in the morning, 2 hours, my father insisted me to sit in front of the black and white TV, telling that now this is the quantum leap of the technology. The man is standing on the moon. And at that time, I also realized that there is a concept called the time difference. 21st September in Japan was 20th USA Eastern Time. So in the early morning of the 21st, in Japanese time, Japanese Standard Time, I was witnessing in the black and white TV, and that was probably the first time that internationally that event was broadcasted. I glanced at the web. It's very easy. I mean, that you can just Google it and it comes. The TV was broadcasted live in the 40 countries. I asked one gentleman, and Pakistan was not it was not broadcasted in Pakistan, but 40 countries, and about 400 million people witnessed. And something happening in the moon, witnessed by 400 million people in 1969, that was big deal. But we have still long way to go. We have gone through a lot of things. 1982, I graduated from one university in Japan and joined the Mitsubishi Corporation. And you will be amazed. I talked about time difference, but at that time, Mitsubishi Corporation published one book, which I got really fond of. And that's why I joined the Mitsubishi Corporation. And the title of the book was Time Difference is Money. I mean, those millennials, I mean, that you cannot comprehend what that means. In 1982, world were not connected. So Mitsubishi Corporations, one of the biggest trading houses in Japan, has the office in Washington, London, New York, Singapore, and we are all connected with the telex. So whatever happened in the USA, the guy sits in the New York, telex sits to the Tokyo. So we knew what's happening in New York probably 4 hours earlier than the rest of guy sitting in Japan. So with that time difference, we made money. Well, we made money on the other things, but at least the time difference was money. Nobody talks on the time difference now. I mean that we are global trotter, and we cope with the time difference before breakfast. Anyway, and even then, I mean, for Mitsubishi Corporation, 1982, if you were to make international phone call, you have to have this paper slip that, okay, I have to call the New York, and this is the reason, okay? So you have to give the paper to the team leader. He stamps it. I have to bring it to the general manager. He said that, yeah, this is irrelevant. You cannot do that. That's happening. And 1982, company sent me to Egypt, 2 years, Arabic language training. So Cairo, I studied Arabic. And how did I communicate with my girlfriend then? Happened to be my wife now. 2 years. I used letter. So my love letter goes from Cairo, takes like 2 weeks to reach to the Tokyo, and my wife reads it, and she spent like 1 week to write, reply, send it back, comes back after 2 weeks. So it's very remote, and when you start fighting with the letter, I mean that it's getting a little confused because you don't have a copying machine, so you forgot what you wrote 1 week back, and gets back, she's angry. And why is she angry? I don't know. I mean, that's kind of the connectivity we used to have, even in the 1982. Those of you who ever stayed in Cairo, there is a place called Zamalek, which is like DHA of Pakistan. So if I were to make a phone call, because I don't know why my girlfriend at the time was angry on whatever I wrote 3 weeks back or 4 weeks back, I need to make a phone call. But I don't have a phone call, and in order to get the international phone call, I have to go to one hotel in Cairo and wait for 2 hours to get myself connected, and the line cuts in 2 minutes. So that's how it works, the connectivity. And so list goes on and goes on. One fine thing that I'm supposed to finish my talk in 20 minutes, so I skip some of the funny experience that I can share it with you, but 1992, I made a presentation in Paris in one of those international conferences. That's 1992. And there is only one Macintosh in Mitsubishi Corporation at that time. So I used that Macintosh, and there was no PowerPoint at the time, and there was a software called Aldous Persuasions. I think, I don't know, somebody might remember, somebody not. There is a, looks like a software to make presentations. And I was overwhelmingly clapped hand because my presentation was the only presentation made by color and pie chart. So everybody is saying, oh, this Japanese is making presentation with colored pie chart. You see? But still, at that time, I have to use overhead projector. Do you know the OHP? Have you ever heard of OHP? Yeah? Okay. List goes on. Connectivity, I think, is the key. 5 years back, I was drinking. I'm sorry, we drink. I was drinking with my colleague in Japan, and I was saying that, okay, we get so much connected. Everybody is bothering us all over the world whenever we go. And only the relaxing place that we can have is overseas trip. During the airplanes, nobody gets me connected. I can relax, and I can see the movies. I mean, that you know what is happening in the Emirates, that you can get connected Wi-Fi's, and now, I mean, we don't have any disconnectivity. Until yesterday, I found out that from flying from Islamabad to Karachi in PIA, this is fine 2 hours that I can have disconnectivity from the Wi-Fi. That is how things moves on. So let us admit, I mean, that what's happening here, what we can do with the iPhone. By the way, that I have the iPhone 7 Plus. 10 years back, I got the iPhone 1. Things are moving. I'm happy about Apple because I can skip iPhone 8 and 8 Plus, and I can buy 10 in this autumn. With the speed of the change that we have been experiencing, I think iPhone 20, what's going to happen? Maybe we have to make a decision that whether we should implant this iPhone 20 into my brain. Maybe that's something that we need to make a judgment call. So those days happening. By the way, why am I speaking work-life balance in digital age? Because as for Ahsan, he invited me to make a speech in the Future Summit. And as I confessed myself, I'm the human from the past. How should I talk about the future in a Future Summit? And I was thinking about the subject that I can talk with. I can never talk on IT and this, but I picked up this work-life balance in digital age because probably that is something I'm struggling with. And I gave my title that I will be speaking on the work-life balance in digital age 1 week back, no, 10 days back. As Farah-san said, yeah, good idea, why don't you do it? And for past 10 days, I was thinking, what is work-life balance? And I Googled when work-life balance, the word came about in somewhere in 1980. People start talking about work-life balance in 1980. So come to think of it, maybe, we are already disrupting the concept of work-life balance. Work-life balance is something needs to be balanced. You have the work, you have the life, you have to balance it. But as I told you, now connectivity we have is not that 1980. I mean, that you don't need 2 months or 1 month to connect your girlfriend in Japan from Cairo. I mean, that you can do the Skype or whatever it is. The connectivity is gone. Together with the connectivity, I think that the border is gone. So work is something you do to make your living at your office, 9 to 5, 5 days a week. And life is something you do it in the home, 5 to 9. 5 days a week, and Saturday and Sunday. It's already merging, integrating. And eventually, I think work is getting absorbed to the life. So life is no more something that separates you from life. Or at least that is what's happening. I mean, that you have to accept. I mean, you means my generation. I mean, that you tend to think that work-life balance, no, work will chase you because you have to cope with it. I think that's what I think. Connectivity and boundaries going out. So it's all digitalized and become boundless. I also Googled what the other countries are doing, and I found out that France and Germany are serious about this work-life balance. They're trying to legislate that no emails after the office hour, or I mean that some companies say that weekend we are shutting down the mail servers. Is it going to work? my private opinion, it doesn't work because once people get connected, I mean that you don't like to get disconnected. If you want to get disconnected, it's not by the system of the employer, I mean that you have to control yourself. Basically, I think change has to come out, paradigm shift comes about, or mindset change needs to be required, not from the outside, but within ourselves. This is some challenge that our generation gonna face it, but I think we need to do that. So having said whatever I said, there are a few humble suggestions to my generation. How should we go about? First thing is that do not give up. Do not give up. Maybe we are not as good as Generation Z, but at least we can try. And the game plan, I think, is the curiosity. Curiosity sometimes kills the cat, but I think for the human being, curiosity is a driving force. I can share with you one good example. You might be knowing Mr. Hussein Dawood, owner of Dawood Hercules, chairman of Anglo Corp, one of the business tycoon in Pakistan. Mitsubishi has a privilege of having a joint venture with Anglo Polymer. By virtue of that, maybe once a quarter, I have a privilege of talking with Mr. Hussein Dawood one-to-one, face-to-face, maybe 1 hour or so, chatting general talk and this and that. 1 year back, I noticed that he was fiddling with the smartphone, and he was fiddling with 2 gadgets, iPhone and Galaxy. So I asked him, saying something that, why are you using both Galaxy and iPhone? It's complicated. He said, Ando-san, at least I need to be connected in what's happening, and I have a curiosity to check myself that which is better. So he is using Galaxy and iPhone both. I haven't asked him which one was better. I mean that, anyway, that's, I think, some spirit. I mean, that age of Mr. Hussein Dawood, I think he is much more seasoned than what we are. So I think that is something that we can take away. And another thing is, again, we are in the digital age, but maintain something within you, analog. Yeah. Digital age is the way to go. It will dominate the world. I'm not debating on that. But digital is black and white. Digital is 0 to 1, 0 and 1. There is no between. It leads to the bad, good. It leads to we are right, they are wrong. And it leads to I'm always right, my wife is wrong. And so forth. But we are human beings, and if we were to not to be controlled solely by digital, I think that we need to maintain ourselves as analog. We have to know, and we know for sure, that black is not black. Black is very blackish white. White is not white, it's very whitish black. And everywhere is gray. I mean that we need to make up our mind right and wrong, but also it's always, we have to say that, we have to understand that it is relative. I'm trying to keep myself somewhere analog, and I was thinking, what am I keeping myself? And I found out that my watch here, this is Rolex. I purchased this in the antique shop in London a few years back, and it is manufactured in 1959. It's nothing fancy. I mean, that antique Rolex, it doesn't tell you the date, but it only tells you the time. You have to wind it up every morning because otherwise it will stop. And the 2 minutes, 3 minutes delay is here and there every day, but at least it tells the time. And I think that is something that I mean that you have any other choices maybe, but something, stay yourself analog sometimes. Dance, sing, play music, whatever. Enjoy your life. Thank you very much.
Ando-san, thank you. I think everybody here knows, though, that even in the era of instant communication, it's perfectly possible, in fact, probably inevitable, that you will make your girlfriend angry when you communicate with her at some point, or your partner, whoever they may be. So, 3...